China has opened up.
They've also gained 3 years to study the virus.
Doesn't matter where it starts.
No se puede generalizar por un virus.
So we have a lot of Americans dying.
Today, China is fighting a battle against rising infections. Just like things eventually will get better as well.
Millions of people's lives.
Hello everyone, I'm Marissa. I'm a foreign English teacher working in Wuhan. I was here during the outbreak, the approximate 90-day quarantine, and I still have not left Wuhan since. I haven't been living in China long, but when people ask me about why I stayed, aside from China's modern conveniences, my answer is simple: the people. The people in China have a connection and a duty to each other unlike what I have ever experienced before. And during the quarantine was no exception. And they didn't let their isolation be an excuse to wallow in self-pity. But instead, they used it to help flatten the curve of the virus throughout the country within a short time and contribute to a greater good. They also got creative in using their quarantine to unite community. So my boyfriend actually worked for a volunteer charity organization who was a part of the volunteer outreach in Wuhan at the time. And they would go out and give out masks, medical supplies. If there was a food donation, they would also help distribute food to people in need in the community. And then at the end of the quarantine, the whole of Wuhan came together, not inside their homes, but now outside in their communities to take the nucleic acid test. At this point, it had already been about 2 weeks when they finished collecting all the data from the whole city. And that really blew my mind because Wuhan has almost 10 million people. The testing really proved that the sacrifices of the people in Wuhan had paid off.
Ahora mismo en China todo el mundo está trabajando unido para eliminar este problema, pero he visto que fuera de China hay gente que no tiene la conciencia que debería tener sobre el tema y muchas cuentas que están falseando información o exagerando los números para asustar a la gente y engancharles al contenido que están publicando. Hace poco una de estas cuentas publicó un vídeo de una chica comiendo murciélago. Luego generalizó esta idea a toda China, diciendo que todos los chinos comen murciélago. En realidad esta chica se llama Wang y es una presentadora de un programa online de viajes. El vídeo en el que ella sale comiendo su murciélago es del 2016 y se grabó en un país llamado Palau, que es una isla del Océano Pacífico. Y este plato no tiene nada que ver con la gastronomía china. Es un plato de la gastronomía de otro país, que además fue duramente criticado en el año 2016 cuando se publicó.
So we got the distribution all taken care of. We got the confirmation on this side. Just need to print the address
of the hospital that we're donating to.
Yeah.
And then directly gonna give it.
Put it in the boxes, put it in the truck, and we're good to go. We have 15 minutes actually. The guy just came and said, you guys got 15 minutes. So things are happening. Let's go. Gloves, the masks, the equipment, tons of medical stuff. Look at all of this. Look at all the stuff we got.
Finally getting our stuff to the truck. We're gonna put this to make sure that when it reaches China, they know exactly that it's through this. So we gotta make sure it goes quicker. Alright, you're gonna open this from this. This is our truck. That's the truck, that's one of the airport trucks. Look, if we can get 100,000 masks to 100,000 people in Wuhan right now, or in Hubei, all the cities around, it's gonna be one of the best things ever in our life.
All the way down. Jerusalem.
And here we are sitting on a truck with like a ton, literally 1 ton of medical supplies in the back of a truck.
On the way to Tel Aviv airport.
Wow, this is massive.
And as we arrived at the airport warehouse around 2 p.m. and filled all the official forms, we finally got the news we're waiting for so long.
Flight got confirmed.
Thank God. This flight was leaving the next day at 1 p.m. from Tel Aviv to Moscow, and then the next day from Moscow to Guangzhou. Man, and I remember that moment when they stick that sticker that approves that our boxes are going to get. It says
TLVCAM, baby.
Oh.
Guangzhou, direct shipment, and it's gonna go tomorrow.
Huanggang Central Hospital, which we found out a lot of the equipment they lack are in our shipment. And we really hope that we can directly get to the hospital and donate them as soon as possible. So despite all these incredible difficulties and impossibilities along the way, all the way from our suppliers to the international blockages, to the governments and airlines canceling everything and the whole world going against us, we still managed to get to this point. Well, what does it say? That with determination, never give up attitude, and a true passion to help others and make things work, anyone can do it.
Trust me, if we can do it, you can do it. We've seen a lot of people are helping from all over the world. We're happy we're not alone in this. What happened? Oh, Chinese? We'll find a way. We always find a way.
Yeah, we'll find a way.
We'll find a way.
We have to do it again.
I promise.
She said that she already had another shipment of masks to China this morning, and we're the second one. That means there's more and more people are sending. That's really good news.
Everyone who had a little influence on the way to make this happen, thank you.
If we can get these 100,000 masks to 100,000 people in China, well, it's all worth it. So remember, China.
We got your back.
Jayo.
It doesn't matter where it starts. It's how people deal with it. And we can see a real big difference between how the Chinese people have dealt with it and how the American people are dealing with it. It's just a matter of taking responsibility for your actions. It's a matter of looking out for your neighbors. It's a matter of looking out for the old people in your community. It's a matter of not having children go to school. It's all of these different things.
China did so well controlling the virus and 1.4 billion people. I mean, look at all the people behind me. They believe in their government, they trust their government, and they love their country, plain and simple.
汉叔怎么那么第一次看汉叔做事情做这么积极，真的。他一个人，你看看我。然后写日期，21年9月30号。
So here we are to get our email, or my email.
Why are you so happy?
Well, because finally getting completely vaccinated. There was a lot of problems because I was an American, so there were some problems. 打一次要50块，2次要100块，便宜。对，可惜我不是一个中国人，如果我是一个中国人，是免费的。
感觉怎么样？ How's your feeling?
So countries like the USA and the UK, they've had massive amounts of COVID-19 cases, and for them the vaccine has been kind of a last resort. It's only since they've started rolling out the vaccine that case numbers have been dropping, and they have finally looked as though they're bringing the situation there under control. If you look at the US, they sort of made a statement that they needed to get all their own people vaccinated, and they refused to ship vaccine to Mexico, where China have shipped vaccine to many of its neighbouring countries. China's ability to manufacture at large scale. China have the ability to manufacture not millions but billions of vaccines, and they deal with a population of 1.4 billion people, so they are really switched on and geared up to be able to deal with large-scale manufacturing, much larger than many other countries around the world. And so far, China have donated vaccines to more than 50 countries and done deals with a further 27 to supply vaccines. Personally, I think news reporters shouldn't be concerned with vaccine diplomacy. Pretty much everybody around the world is going to need to be vaccinated, and it's important the people who need it most get it first. And that's what China are trying to do. You know, I personally believe China are doing a great job of getting the vaccine out there to people who wouldn't normally be getting it. And I think it's terrible that the West are trying to politicize the distribution of vaccines.
疫苗可以说是人类历史上最伟大的发明之一，人类抗击传染病的最有力的武器。
新冠病毒的这个变异的话，它每天都在发生。对新冠病毒变异的，就是研究，也每天都在进行。无论怎么样，我们都要做到有备无患。
As we all know, China used to have one of the strictest pandemic control policies for the past 3 years. Finally, China has decided to take on a different approach as they believe that Omicron is no longer as lethal as it once was. I've been living in Wuhan for the entirety of the pandemic over the past 3 years, and I think this is kind of a miracle in disease prevention history. It really has been a tough 3 years, to be honest. It's taken so much manpower, sacrifice, so much time and resources, but in return, they have also gained 3 years to study the virus, develop a vaccine, and prescription drugs, so that now people can have a smoother transition to living with the virus. Today, my husband and I went out to the supermarket with my parents-in-law for the first time since they've recovered, and it really was busy out there with everyone starting to prepare for Chinese New Year. I'm so glad to see everyone is recovering well and the city is really coming alive again. Overall, I think that it's a wonder that the virus has been kept out for so long, and I'm confident that by now people are learning how to properly take care of their own health and be conscientious of the health of those around them.
China has opened up. There's no more COVID restrictions. It is no longer required to take a test before you go on a flight domestically in China, because before you had to take a test within 24 hours of going on a flight, and then they changed it to 48 hours, and now they've dropped it completely. I think it's the same for trains as well, so that's pretty good, because I'm always taking lots of flights. And it's kind of strange, you know, because if you tune into Western media and you haven't heard anything about it. There's no story saying China opens up, China ends like the restrictions, China relaxes restrictions or whatever. You don't see anything. Do you know why? Because it's too positive for them to put it in the headlines. It's too much of a positive story about China opening up, China returning to normal. China's strategy has worked. They played the long game. Slow and steady wins the race. China played the slow game for the last 3 years. Well, all the other Western countries were like, oh no, we can't wait. We want to open up the economy, open the doors. And then people dying left, right, and center. 1 million people died. China played the long game, stuck with it for 3 years. And now the virus is much milder. And it's worked. It's worked. We're open. China's opened back up.
This is what I can report from the countryside and from the smaller cities like this one in Yunnan. I can only surmise that the situation in other cities, bigger cities around the country, is somewhat similar. The repercussions of China's optimized COVID response are as expected. Omicron spread and continues to spread fast through the country. In cities that have yet to reach peak infection rate, citizens remain voluntarily cautious, while normality has resumed in cities that peaked early. Given that Omicron is a weaker virus, health facilities around the country, for the most part, have been able to handle the influx of patients seeking attention. At the same time, pharmaceutical companies have sped up production of medicine to offset the symptoms of the virus in order to meet demand. Local governments are doing their part as well. Some of them are distributing free kits to fight off the symptoms of the virus. It is easy to recognize that China's latest measures have paid off and that the country is finally ready to resume normality. As we usher the new phase of the pandemic, we can easily see that China came out on top, with an economy that withstood the challenges and with millions of lives effectively protected.
عاش فترة الكورونا وفترة ما بعد الكورونا. طبعا هذا الشيء ما بتشوفوه بالإعلام الغربي. كيف حافظت على شعبها واللي هو أكثر من 1.5 مليار نسمة من خلال النظام والتعاون والتخطيط وتجاوب الشعب السريع مع الإجراءات العظيمة يلي اتخذتها الحكومة من أجل السلامة والأمان. حياة الأجانب هون كتير سهلة وبسيطة وقادر على الاندماج بسرعة بالمجتمع، لأن الشعب الصيني شعب لطيف محب للصداقات. مثلا أهلي ما بيعرفوا يحكوا لغة صينية، بس كل يوم هن بيروحوا على الماركت والمول وبيستخدموا المترو والباص وبيزوروا أماكن الطبيعة الجميلة بالصين، وحتى صار عندهم الكثير من الأصدقاء الصينيين. ومثلا صديقتي اللي ما بتحكي صيني بعد إلغاء إجراءات الكورونا قررت تجي تزورني من مدينة إيو بالصين لقضاء عطلة عيد الربيع الصينية معي ومع عائلتي. الجميل أنه وصلت بسهولة للمدينة اللي أنا أقيم فيها، وأنا رحت استقبلتها محطة القطار. حقيقة شو ما حكيت عن الصين وعظمة هذا البلد كتير قليل، وإذا عن جد حابب تشوف كل جمال وعظمة الحضارة الصينية والأمان والسلام لازم تزور هذا البلد العظيم.
There comes a time when we heed a certain call, when the world must come together as one.
There are people dying